Hello everyone, Keyboard Alchemist here and welcome back to another Stable Diffusion tutorial. This is part 2 of the INPAINT Anything tutorial where I will walk through other functionalities of this amazing extension, specifically the Control Net Inpaint and Cleaner features. As usual, I will go through an example scenario to help illustrate. If you haven't seen part 1 of this tutorial, I will leave a link in the upper right hand corner. Check it out. Here's the TLDR. First, I will show you how to install and use the Control Net Inpainting model by itself. I wanted to show this one first to illustrate just how much of a difference Control Net makes. It's really night and day. Second, I will walk through how to use Control Net Inpainting in the Inpaint Anything extension. Then we will see the Cleaner function in action. I will use it to remove some stuff that I don't want from the original image. There is also the reference-only control feature that was quite interesting. I have done some testing and we'll go through it as well. Okay, let's get started. Let's say that I wanted to generate a mid-range shot of a girl in a kimono. Here are my prompts. This is also called a cowboy shot because this frames your subject from over the top of their head to about their mid-thigh. Fun fact, cowboy shots are so named because old westerns use this type of shot a lot since they need to show the cowboy's face and the gun on their hip in the same shot. I'm still going to use the Magic Mix model here, which is a Stable Diffusion version 1.5 fine-tuned model. We all know that SD 1.5 models are good at generating portraits without much fuss, but if you prompt it to generate a medium shot or longer range shots, you're going to get some messed up faces. So how do we fix this issue? You guessed it, with inpainting. With normal inpainting, you are going to be at the mercy of the almighty RN Jesus. Here, as I was trying to inpaint with the normal method, I have generated 3 batches of 4 images each. And I got maybe 1 out of 12 images that was acceptable and looked natural. In between batches, I had to tweak my prompt, refine the mask, and manually pick the seed from the image that I thought was good, then generating another batch with the good seed as the starting point. This process is so time-consuming. We need a faster and more consistent way. Here comes Control Net to save the day. Control Net is a must-have extension in your Stable Diffusion arsenal. I can make several videos just on how to use different features in Control Net, but we will save those topics for future videos. Today we're focusing on the Control Net Inpaint model, so let's install it first. Go to the Extensions tab, then the Available tab. Click on the Load From button and a list of available extensions will show up. In the search bar type SD-WebUI-Control. You will see the Control Net extension here. Note, I already have this extension installed, but you will see the Install button on the right-hand side. Click on it and wait a few seconds for the installation to complete. Once the installation is finished, go back to the Install tab and click on Check for Updates. Then click on Apply and Restart UI. When your web UI is restarted, scroll down to see your newly installed Control Net version. Click on the arrow to expand this section and see all your available options. Next, we will need to download the Control Net Inpaint model from Hugging Face. I will leave a link to the Hugging Face page in the video descriptions. You can use that link or search on Google for Control Net version 1.1. It will bring you to this Hugging Face page. Scroll down to find the Control V11 PSD 15 inpaint.pth file. Then click the download button on the right. This is a large file, so it might take some time to download. When the download is complete, go to your Automatic 1111 folder. Find the extensions subfolder, then SD Web UI Control Net, then finally the Models folder. As we can see, there are already corresponding .yaml files in this folder, so we didn't need to download them. Copy your Control Net Inpaint.pth file into this folder. When you go back to your web UI, you may not initially see the Inpaint model, but if you click on the blue refresh button, you should be able to see it and select it. Now it is ready for use. Now let's go back to our example image and see how we can use Control Net Inpaint to help us get a better result faster and more consistently. Scroll down to Control Net, click on the Enable checkbox. This will make the Control Net Unit 0 title turn green, then select the Inpaint Radio button. From the Preprocessor drop-down menu, we want to select the InPaint Global Harmonious option. This option will enable you to inpaint directly within the Web UI's InPaint interface, and your image will be improved by Control Net. You do not need to add an image to the Control Net section. Coming back up to the image-to-image InPaint settings. These are the same settings that I used earlier in the video. The settings listed here, I would recommend to keep the same. Feel free to experiment with the other settings to get the results that you want. I'm also going to generate a batch of 4 images and see how many good results we get. Everything is set. Let's generate a batch of 4. As we can clearly see that all 4 images in this first batch are great. Since I did not change any InPaint settings, the improvement is due to Control Net being turned on. But in the first batch I noticed that I used 512 by 512 for inpainting, so I'm going to change it back to 512 by 768, then generate again. The second batch turned out pretty good too. All 4 images look natural with good proportions. In this case, I picked this image on the right to continue working because I liked it the most. I uploaded the image that I liked into Inpaint Anything and generated a Segment Anything map. Then I generate a mask for inpainting. The steps are exactly the same as described in my Inpaint Anything Part 1 video, so I won't go into detail here. Check out the previous video if you haven't already. Instead of doing the normal Inpainting tab, here I am going to show you the Control Net Inpainting tab within the Inpaint Anything extension. Since we have seen in the earlier part of the video that Control Net Inpainting can give you more consistently good results, it's the same idea here. To get more consistent results, avoid re-rolling and save time with Control Net. I want to change the color of her kimono to silver, and I will leave the negative prompts blank for now. Expanding the Advanced Options section, you will see that this looks exactly like the image-to-image interface. You can choose a sampler, change all of the parameters to your liking. I'm keeping the denoising strength at a relatively high value of 0.75 because we want the kimono to change significantly. Feel free to experiment with this value to see how it changes the inpainted area. Now let's look at the Control Net interface. You will see that the Control Net interface here in the Inpaint Anything extension is very similar to the normal Control Net interface. For reference, as I go through each of the buttons or fields here, I will show you the corresponding normal Control Net interface on the right-hand side. Here, the low VRAM button is checked by default. You should turn it off if you have a 6GB or 8GB graphics card because leaving it on will make your image generation slower. But it looks like I forgot to turn it off here. The control mode selections are the same 3 selections from the normal interface, except here it's just in a drop-down for you to select. Control weight is the same parameter. We can just leave it at the default value of 1. We can see there is a reference-only control section here. This is the same as the reference-only preprocessor that is within the normal Control Net interface. Right now, we are not going to complicate things by enabling this feature. We will circle back to it later in this video. Further down, there is the Control Net preprocessor drop-down list. In the regular Control Net interface, there are 4 options. None, InPaint Global Harmonious, InPaint Only, and InPaint Only plus Llama. For the interface here in Inpaint Anything, we have InPaint, which correspond to the None selection, meaning no preprocessor is selected. Then there is InPaint Only and InPaint Only plus Llama. These 2 options are the same in both interfaces. Lastly, there is the Control Net Inpaint Model selection. Since there is only 1 model, we can leave this as is. Once all options are set, go ahead and click Run Control Net Inpaint. Give it a few seconds to finish the inpainting. And as we can see, the silver kimono came through quite nicely, but I thought that it was a bit too plain, so I changed my prompt to generate a more detailed silver kimono. I kept all other parameters the same. Comparing the Control Net inpainted silver kimono with the starting image, it looks like there were some artifacts around the collar, so I increased the area of the mask a bit to correct for this issue. Then the second image came out with no artifacts on the collar. I also saw that the neck was a bit too long, so I had to fix up the mask a bit more. Finally, I changed my prompt to a blue kimono again, and I added all my negative prompts from the original image and generated again, which seemed to have increased the overall image quality. At this point, I was satisfied with the result of my inpainting, so I moved on to the next step, which is to clean up things in the background. We are going to use the cleaner function to clean up the background. I am looking to remove those pieces of white on the wooden panels. Since these are pretty small, I tried to use a larger segment anything model to create a more detailed segmentation map. Then select all of these pieces in the background and generate the mask. I noticed that when generating this new mask, some parts of my old mask showed up. This is a bug in the extension. If this happened to you, simply delete the old mask and generate your new mask again. You should click on the Expand Mask Region button 2 to 3 times. Once the mask is ready, come to the Cleaner tab, then go with the Llama Cleaner model and click Run Cleaner. Afterwards, we can see that things got cleaned up fairly well. There is a tiny bit of white left here. We will fix this later by doing our latent upscaling. Alternatively, you can feed this image back to your input section, run a segmentation, and try to select for that little speck and remove it. As you can see in the video, I tried to do this exact thing, but the segmentation failed to detect that little white speck. So I left it alone since we can fix this later. Instead, I saw this hole in the roof that needed to be fixed. The process for fixing the hole in the roof is the same. We are selecting it in the segmentation map and creating a mask, then running the cleaner. We can see that cleaner removed the hole in the roof and replaced it with something similar to the surrounding area. This is exactly what I was looking for. Now for the tough part, trying to fix the hands with inpainting. Normally, using inpainting to fix hands would be nearly impossible. But with Control Net Inpainting, I was a bit more optimistic. But as you will end up seeing, I had to tweak some settings, and I did re-roll a few times to get the hands that I wanted. It's not perfect, but it's darn close. However, I don't recommend trying to fix hands with inpainting. There are more efficient and accurate methods, which we will explore in future videos. I put feminine hands in the prompt and left the rest of the parameters the same. Within Control Net options, I changed the control mode to My Prompt is More Important. Then after a few re-rolls, I also increased the CFG value to 9 to make sure that the model follows my prompt a bit more literally. But if you recall from my previous video, if you increase CFG value, you will need more sampling steps to get a clear image. Otherwise, you might get some artifacts. I'll leave a card to that video in the top right corner. Check it out if you have not already. I also ended up decreasing the denoising strength to 0.5 because the hands in the original image were not too bad. So I tried to see if I could generate something that is close to that, but also had some changes in the positive direction. Then, after maybe 10 or so re-rolls, I got my final image that was pretty good. I'm not showing the entire process of tweaking the parameters and re-rolling because that would take too long. Now that I'm done with all the inpainting, I did a latent upscaling in image to image to add details and get rid of any imperfections as a result of the many inpainting steps that was done before. I did a fairly detailed walkthrough of how to do the latent upscaling in part 1 of my Inpaint Anything video. If any of the steps that are shown on screen here doesn't make sense, go ahead and reference that previous video. I'll leave a link in the upper right-hand corner so you can get to it easily. The latent upscaling steps are at the end of that video. Here I forgot to change the resize mode, which caused the image become blurry. So I changed the resize mode to just resize and generate it again. I think the final image came out really good. We see that the things that we removed from the background blended in very well. The flower on her hair looks a lot more rounded and natural, and her kimono has become more detailed, and you can easily see the small flowers and patterns on it. So our job is done here. But wait, there's more. Before we start, do me a favor and click the like and subscribe buttons to help support this channel. Your likes and subscriptions help me grow this channel and allow me to continue making quality content. Thank you. By the way, this channel has recently hit 1,000 subs, and I wanted to say a special thank you to those who have already subscribed. I really appreciate your continued support. Thank you. Remember what I said earlier in the video about coming back to the reference-only control section? Now I will show you how to use it and which parameters have more affect on the resulting images generated with it. First of all, Reference Only is a ControlNet preprocessor, so you don't have to download any additional ControlNet models to use it. To activate it in the InPaint Anything extension, you just need to drop a reference image into this box. I'll go through an example to demonstrate how to use it. Let's say I have this image on the left and I really like the red kimono and want to apply it to the image on the right. We can use Reference Only control to do this. To keep things clear, let's call the left side image the reference image and the right side image the input image. Let's start by dropping the after inpainting image we have from earlier into the input image box. Then run your SAM and create the mask for the kimono just like how we did it before. Come over to the Control Net Inpaint tab and copy all your positive and negative prompts from your original input image, but remove any style descriptors like colors and details of the kimono from the positive prompt because we are going to get the style information from the reference image. Here are my prompts. I found that the prompts have a big impact on the resulting inpainted image. So if you leave any style descriptors in your prompt, the resulting image will be influenced more by your prompt than your reference image. Under Advanced Options, I went with the DPM++ 2mCaras sampler. This is a sampler that works well in many different situations. I'm setting the sampling steps to an arbitrary value here since during testing I saw that the steps really did not significantly affect the inpainting output image too much. Here I'm showing steps from 10 to 100. With the exception of 10 steps, which is really too low, there were not a whole lot of change to the kimono as we increased the total sampling steps. In fact, I think the 40 to 60 range looked better than the higher steps. Similarly, with CFG scale, changing the value did not seem to have a significant impact on the inpainting output image, which makes sense because the CFG value tends to modulate how your prompts are being followed by the AI. But in this case, we are mainly using the reference image to guide the generation and not the prompts. So I set this to an arbitrary value of 5. You want to pay special attention to your denoising strength value. Based on testing, it looks like the lower you go, the further away from the reference image you will be. This makes sense because inpainting is essentially image-to-image generation, and we know that for image-to-image generation, the lower the denoising strength, the fewer changes you will get for your original image. Higher denoising strength value equals more changes. I would recommend keeping this value above 0.9. Here I just use the max value of 1. Now let's look at the ControlNet options. Looks like I remembered to turn off low V RAM. Keep control weight at 1. Set control mode to ControlNet is more important. Drop your reference image into this box. Notice that my reference image has a similar pose compared to my input image. This will produce a better resulting output image. I tried to use another image as reference. In that image, the character was facing the opposite direction and the output was not good. For the reference image resize mode, just keep it on tile. I found that even if your reference image has different dimensions compared to the input image, tile mode will work a lot better. For the reference type, use Reference Adane plus Attention. This reference type works the best. Reference Adane doesn't seem to carry the color over, and Reference Only also have some color issues. For the Reference Only control weight, if you go below 1, then the patterns or styles of the reference image degrades and have less influence on the resulting image. The effects are quite dramatic, as we can see, so I recommend increasing this value above 1. Maybe keep it at 1.5 or 2. For reference control mode, either balanced or ControlNet is more important should work fine. Lastly, for the ControlNet preprocessor, either use InPaint Only or InPaint Only plus Llama. Both work well. Don't select the InPaint option here. If you recall from earlier in the video, the InPaint option here is equivalent to having no preprocessor, which defeats the purpose of using this reference-only preprocessor. One last important note, the model or checkpoint that is being used can significantly affect the output image. Since the reference image I used was generated from the DreamShaper model, we can clearly see that the inpainted kimono, while using the DreamShaper model, came the closest to the reference. The two realistic models, Magic Mix and Realistic Vision, had the same styles and floral patterns, but were a bit different. The Cetus Mix model gave a painting-like result, which is interesting, but not what we need here. Now that all the settings are done, we can click Run Control Net Inpaint. The inpainted result looks good, and after the latent upscaling, it looks even better. That's it for today. I hope you enjoyed this video and found it helpful. I would appreciate it if you show your support by clicking on the like button and subscribe to this channel. It will help me a lot. Thank you. And I will see you in the next video.